I used to believe silence was peace. Now I know better. Sometimes silence screams louder than any fight ever could. Our penthouse overlooks the whole skyline, yet somehow it always feels cold. Like the windows don't keep out the wind anymore. Or maybe it's not the wind. It's her. Miranda stood by the mirror, adjusting her necklace. Diamond studs. Nothing less. Her navy dress hugged her figure like it had a purpose. It was the same dress she wore the night we closed on the Delano project. That night, she couldn't keep her hands off me. Tonight, she hadn't even looked in my direction. "I won't wait up," I said, pouring a glass of scotch. Half a lie. I wouldn't sleep either way. She glanced at me in the mirror, not surprised, not moved. "It's just a meeting, Nolan. You don't need to sound like my father." I sipped the drink to avoid answering. I could taste something bitter. And it wasn't just the alcohol. Meetings, always these meetings, with people she never named, at places she never photographed. I knew the rhythm too well by now. The scent of perfume lingering on her coat, not the brand she wears. The quick swipes through her phone when I walk into the room. The new passwords. "You know," I finally said, "I saw Liam today." That made her flinch, just for a second. Liam Everett, her ex. The one she swore was ancient history. The one she used to delete photos of, like they were cursed. She turned slowly, her voice sharpened but measured. "And?" "He asked if we're still happy." "People don't ask that unless they already know the answer," she said, grabbing her clutch. I watched the elevator close behind her like a curtain at the end of a play. And for once, I wasn't the actor. I was just part of the audience, watching everything fall apart. I could have stayed in. I could have moped. Instead, I texted Elise. "You still up?" She replied instantly. "Always. Come over. I made something for you." She lived on the other side of town, in an apartment that smelled like cinnamon and ambition. She was 28, an art teacher, with paint always on her fingers and eyes that asked too many questions. "I didn't expect you to come," she said, handing me a cup of tea. It was cheap, oversteeped, but warm. I needed someone to look at me like I'm still real. She didn't ask what I meant. She just listened, which Miranda hadn't done in months. I left before sunrise, guilt already poisoning the memory. I hadn't kissed Elise. Not yet. But something in me had shifted. Miranda didn't return home until nearly 8. She came in through the side elevator, quiet, careful, like a thief. She didn't expect me to be sitting at the kitchen island with the same drink in my hand. "You look tired," I said, and she froze. "I told you." "I know, a meeting." She placed her clutch down slowly, composed, and walked past me without another word. She didn't smell like her perfume. She didn't even smell like smoke or alcohol. She smelled like something else, like someone else. That's when I knew. The next morning, the silence was more than silence. It was a verdict. Miranda didn't speak. Neither did I. She poured her coffee like she hadn't come home 6 hours late, like she didn't smell like another man. I watched her from the other side of the kitchen island. Her hand trembled for a second when she picked up the mug. Not enough for someone else to notice, but I saw it. Because I knew her. Or at least, I used to. "Sleep well?" I asked, voice low but sharp. I wanted her to flinch. She didn't. "Not really. Meetings ran long." Her tone was polished steel. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But the heat in my chest told me I was done pretending. She walked off without touching her coffee. Later that afternoon, I met with my business partner, Harris. We'd been building the firm together for over a decade, through lean years, cutthroat clients, and sleepless nights. He was one of the few people I still trusted. "You look like hell," Harris said, sliding a folder across the table. "Feel worse than I look." "That bad?" I paused. "You ever felt like your life is a performance and you forgot your lines?" He didn't respond right away, just flipped the folder open, then back closed. "Is this about Miranda?" "She says she's working. I say nothing." "That's the game now." "Have you checked her GPS?" I scoffed. "I'm not that guy." "Maybe you should be," he said. "Because if it was me, and my wife came home smelling like another man, I wouldn't be drinking scotch and writing poetry about it." He wasn't wrong. He just said it out loud. After the meeting, I drove past her office, just once. The parking garage was half empty. Her car wasn't there. I waited 30 minutes. Still nothing. At home, I opened our joint credit card app and scrolled. A charge from the Bellwood Lounge stood out like a bleeding wound. The timestamp was 2 hours before she walked in this morning. The Bellwood wasn't some business casual cocktail spot. It was a sleek, ambient place for whispered secrets and dimly lit encounters. A place you went to be seen by the wrong people. I'd been there once, with Elise. We sat in the corner where no one could find us. I didn't message Miranda. I didn't ask where she really was. I needed more. That night, I met Elise again. She noticed the tension the second I walked in. "You're not here for tea this time, are you?" she asked softly. "No. I'm not stupid, Nolan. I know why you come here." I didn't answer, because she was right. She sat next to me on the sofa, legs crossed, her eyes impossibly sad. "You want something from me. Something she took away." "I want honesty," I said. "And if I gave you that, would you hate me less than her?" I looked at her. Really looked. Elise wasn't a fling. She was a mirror. She saw the parts of me that Miranda had walked past for years. "I don't want to hate anyone," I said, "but I think I already do." And then I kissed her. It wasn't planned. It wasn't careful. It was desperate. And in that second, I stopped being the man who waited for the truth and became someone who created his own. We didn't sleep together. But it didn't matter. When I got home, Miranda was in the bathtub, wineglass in hand, candlelight flickering across her skin. She didn't look surprised to see me. She didn't even ask where I'd been. "You ever feel like you're floating in your own life?" she said suddenly, without looking up. "I feel like I'm drowning in mine." She let the silence sit for a moment, then sipped her wine. "Then maybe we should both come up for air, separately." That was the first time she hinted at it, at something ending. And I didn't stop her. I just turned, walked out of the bathroom, and called someone, not Elise, a private investigator. It took the investigator 3 days to get back to me. 3 days of polite small talk at home and long, tense silences that clung to the walls like mildew. 3 days of Elise texting, "Are you okay?" and me never really knowing how to answer. On the 4th night, I met the investigator. His name was Mark Dalton, at a diner 20 minutes outside the city, far from the familiar faces of my world. He slid a small manila envelope across the table like we were trading state secrets. "She's not going to meetings," he said bluntly. I didn't move, just stared at the envelope like it might burn me. "She's been to a condo in Midtown 3 times this week. Same place, always between 8 and midnight, sometimes longer." "Who lives there?" I asked, already knowing I didn't want the answer. He hesitated. "A man named Liam Everett." The name hit like a slap I should have seen coming. Miranda's ex, the one she swore she cut off, the one who once left her sobbing in my arms, the one she claimed had destroyed her trust in men. She hadn't cut him off. She just hid him better. Dalton kept talking, but the words blurred. I caught phrases like surveillance photos, door logs, and lingering goodbyes. All I could focus on was the confirmation that my gut had been right all along. When I finally opened the envelope, it was worse than I imagined. Photos. Miranda with her sunglasses on at night, hood pulled over her sleek dark hair, slipping into a private elevator, leaving 5 hours later, hair tousled, makeup faded. One shot, taken from across the street, caught her laughing on the balcony with Liam, her hand on his chest. I didn't need audio. I could hear the betrayal in that laugh. I drove for hours after that. No direction. Just pavement and headlights and the roar in my ears. I didn't go to Elise. I didn't go home. I ended up parked by the lake, the same place Miranda and I had once shared plans for the future. Back then, we thought our lives would be made of glass and steel, clean lines and firm foundations. Now I saw the cracks, and they were spreading. When I got home, Miranda was in the living room watching some British crime series like nothing was wrong. She looked up, mildly annoyed, like I was late for dinner. "You're out late. So were you, on Tuesday and Thursday and last night." She blinked once, just once. Then she turned off the TV slowly. "What is this about?" I think you know. She stood. The pause between us was thick. I'm not having this conversation, she said, grabbing her wine glass. You're not even denying it. Would it matter if I did? She snapped, finally showing something real. Would that fix whatever this has turned into? I took a step closer. Then say it, Miranda. Say it's him. She set the glass down and faced me like a trial attorney. Fine. You want truth? I saw Liam. I've been seeing Liam. Not because I love him, but because he made me feel something. And you haven't touched me like you meant it in almost a year. I exhaled slowly, more tired than angry. You gave up on us before I did. Don't pretend you were some victim waiting to be noticed. Her voice cracked, just barely. Maybe I was tired of being married to a man who stopped looking at me like I mattered. I should have left the room then. Instead, I laughed. A bitter, broken sound. And you thought sleeping with your ex would fix that? No, but it felt like revenge, even if it was only on myself. That line, that damn line. She meant it too, and I didn't know whether to scream or leave or fall apart. Instead, I said nothing. I just turned, walked into my office, and closed the door. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen counter. I need space. Don't follow me. No name, no timestamp. Just 6 words that said everything and nothing. I didn't call her. I didn't chase her. I messaged Elise instead. Are you free tonight? The note stayed on the counter for 2 days. I didn't touch it. I couldn't. It felt radioactive, like even the ink would burn me. I stepped around it every morning like it wasn't there, but it was. Always. Miranda didn't call, didn't text. She was gone, and I didn't even ask where. Instead, I tried pretending life still made sense. Elise and I started seeing each other more regularly. Not in secret anymore, at least not in my head. In my heart, I was already divorced. She came over Thursday night with takeout and that faint lavender scent I was starting to associate with safety. I didn't think you'd want company, she said, kicking off her shoes. I don't. I want you. That was the night it happened. No more just kissing. No more moral gray area. It happened. Afterward, I lay there, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, pointless circles, thinking about how easy it was to fall and how impossible it was to climb back up. I don't want to be a replacement, Elise said quietly, curled up beside me. I don't want to be someone you used to feel better. You're not. You're lying to both of us. She said it without anger, just a soft sadness that hurt worse than any scream. I just need something to feel real again, I told her. She didn't reply. The next evening, Harris texted me out of nowhere. You might want to get to Bellwood. I just saw Miranda walk in. Not alone. I read the message 5 times. My hands clenched around the phone. Bellwood. That damned lounge again. The same place from the credit card receipt. The same place she thought I'd never check. I didn't think. I just moved. But I didn't go alone. I picked up Elise. I thought we were staying in tonight, she said, confused. I need you to come with me. Please, just be there. She didn't ask more, just nodded and got in the car. Bellwood was exactly how I remembered it. Dim lighting, ambient jazz, overpriced cocktails, and secrets soaked into the velvet booths. We walked in together, hand in hand. I scanned the room. There, in the far corner, Miranda. She wasn't with Liam. She was alone, at least at first glance. She wore a black dress I'd never seen before. Sleek, plunging neckline, red lipstick like war paint. She laughed at something, then leaned in. Then he appeared. Not Liam, another man. Younger, stylish. Not from her world or mine. But she looked at him like he was the only thing that mattered in the room. That look broke me more than the affair itself. I stood frozen. Then she saw me. Her eyes landed on Elise first. Her brow twitched, just a hair. But the smile didn't drop. Then she saw me, and everything froze. We were 3 people frozen across a battlefield of candles and cocktails. I took a step forward. Miranda rose, slow and deliberate, like she had all the time in the world. She met me halfway. Nolan, she said coolly, didn't expect to see you here. You said you needed space. And I found it. She glanced at Elise. She looks young. She listens, I said too sharply. And you still want to be the victim? Miranda laughed, but her eyes were steel. You followed me, Nolan? No. I came to drink with someone who doesn't lie for a living. Then you picked the wrong girl. Elise flinched. I turned to defend her, but she spoke before I could. I don't need to be defended, Elise said. At least I'm not sleeping with my ex behind someone's back. Miranda raised an eyebrow. And you think he didn't want this to happen? Men like Nolan only pretend to suffer. I stepped between them. That's enough. People were starting to stare. Miranda leaned in close so only I could hear. You're not angry I cheated. You're angry I beat you to it. The words cut deeper than I expected. You don't know what I'm angry about anymore, I whispered back. Then I turned and left. Elise followed. Quietly. We didn't speak until we were back in the car. You still love her, don't you? Elise finally asked. No, I said. But we both knew I was lying again. Elise didn't come home with me that night. She didn't need to say it aloud. The look in her eyes before closing the car door was enough, something between heartbreak and survival. I sat in the driveway for nearly 20 minutes, keys still in the ignition, hands gripping the wheel like it might keep me from unraveling. The house was dark, silent, but not empty. She was back. Miranda. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, wine glass in hand, leaning against the counter like she owned the night. Like the Bellwood scene had never happened. Home early, she said without looking up. Bold of you to be here, I replied, shutting the door with more force than necessary. Why wouldn't I be? It's my house too. You were with someone else. Again. Her lips curled into a smirk. So were you. That's not the same. It never is. When you do it, right? I stepped closer, jaw tight. Why are you doing this? The public games? The men? The bar? Her voice dropped, no longer taunting, just flat. Because I want out, Nolan. I've wanted out for months. Then say it. Stop dancing around it, just say the damn word. She set the glass down with a hard clink. Fine, I want a divorce. It didn't feel like I thought it would. No thunder, no collapse. Just a cold emptiness crawling into my chest like something had already died long ago. Then why play all these games? Because you wouldn't let me be the one to end it, she hissed. You wanted me to be the villain so you could keep your clean hands and your sympathy. Well, congrats. I'm the monster now. You made yourself that. She stepped closer, face inches from mine. You think Elise will fix what's broken in you? She'll be just like me one day. Tired, bored, and counting down the days until you stop pretending. I stared at her speechless. Then something in me broke. I stayed loyal while you drifted. I worked my soul into the ground for this marriage. I never thought you'd be the one to throw a grenade into it. No, you just stood by and let it rot. You watched me drown and called it peace. We stood in that cold kitchen, two ghosts arguing over a burning house. I'll have the papers sent, she said, finally walking past me. Don't worry, I won't drag it out. As she climbed the stairs, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't angry at her. Not really. I was angry at myself, for letting it get this far, for still caring. The next few days were a blur. Harris tried pulling me back into work, but even blueprints looked like lies now. Elise didn't answer my texts. Miranda stayed gone. On the fourth night, I got a call. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something in my gut said I had to. Is this Nolan Carter? Yes. Who's this? This is Detective Callahan with the Metro Police. We need you to come down to the station. It's about your wife. My heart stopped. What happened? She's not hurt, but she's involved in an incident. We'd like your statement. Incident? I can't share more over the phone, but you'll want to come in. By the time I got to the station, my mind had run a marathon of worst-case scenarios. Drugs, assault, blackmail, Liam, none of those. Miranda sat in the corner of the waiting area, face pale but composed. Across the room, I saw the young man from Bellwood, her mystery date, arguing with an officer. Callahan stepped in front of me. She says she was followed, harassed. She claims he tried to force her into his car. Wait, what? She said you might be able to confirm her mental state this past week. She named you as her emergency contact. I'm not her anything anymore. She still put your number down. I stared at her through the glass. She wasn't crying, but her hands trembled, just barely. Was she telling the truth? Or was this another move on a board I didn't even understand? Later, outside, I confronted her. What happened in there? He got aggressive. I pushed him away. He followed me to the street. I screamed. Someone called the cops. Why the hell were you with him again? Because I was trying to forget you. Her honesty stunned me more than the lie would have. I walked away before I said something unforgivable. But that night I realized something else. Miranda wasn't self-destructing. She was clearing the battlefield. I didn't leave the house for 2 days. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't want to know what waited outside. Elise's silence. Miranda's headlines. The echo of my own guilt. Sometimes the quiet is safer than the answers. On the third morning, Harris stopped by uninvited. He let himself in like he used to, back when our lives were filled with blueprints and coffee-fueled ambition. You look like someone who stopped eating 3 meals ago, he said, eyeing the mess of unopened mail on the counter. I probably did. He handed me a file. Legal papers, clean, professional, final. She had them delivered to my office, said you wouldn't respond if they came directly. I opened it. Miranda's signature was elegant, controlled, like she'd signed a dinner check, not a marriage. There was a note clipped to the top. Nolan, don't drag this out. Let's both get out clean. Clean. That word haunted me. She's serious this time, Harris said. She always was. I just pretended she wasn't. Are you gonna fight it? I don't know. The truth was, I didn't have the strength. Not to fight her. Not to chase Elise. Not to fix anything. I stared at the papers like they were written in a language I'd forgotten how to read. Later that night, I opened my phone. Dozens of messages from Elise, all unread. I finally opened the most recent one. You lied to me. Not about her. About you. I thought you were broken. But you're not. You're just lost. And too scared to admit it. She hadn't blocked me. But the silence that followed was louder than any goodbye. I responded. I never meant to use you. I just didn't know how to survive alone. No reply. I sat on the floor of my office and stared at the framed photo on my bookshelf. Miranda and I, 6 years ago, at a charity gala. She was laughing. I was looking at her like she was the only real thing in the world. How did we become this? The next morning, my lawyer called. She's offering a quick settlement. Full division of assets down the middle. No spousal support either way. That's generous. She wants it clean, fast. She's already spoken to her attorney about media control. Media? She wants to protect her image. Of course she does, because this wasn't just a marriage ending, it was a rebranding. Miranda wasn't walking away, she was repositioning. Later that afternoon I received a delivery. A box, no sender. Inside I found the silk tie I wore at our wedding, the one I hadn't seen in years, and a single Polaroid photo, Miranda smiling, standing on the balcony of the Midtown condo, next to Liam, backlit by morning light. My breath caught in my chest. Why send this now? Why now? There was a note scribbled on the back. We always return to the beginning, don't we? This wasn't just closure. It was a message. She wanted me to know that Liam was back in the picture, that this new man at Bellwood was nothing more than a distraction, that her real story had never ended, and somehow, even after everything, it still hurt. That night I drank too much, again, and I did something reckless. I went to see Liam. His address wasn't hard to find. It had been in the investigator's report. I just never thought I'd use it. When he opened the door, he didn't look surprised. He looked ready. Figured this would happen, he said, stepping aside. The condo was sterile, cold, minimalist, exactly how I imagined someone like Liam would live. She's not here, he said, pouring himself a drink. I don't care. He raised a brow. Then why are you here, Nolan? Because I want to know what she told you. He smirked. That you stopped being a man the day you let her control the narrative. I laughed, bitter and hollow. And you think she's different with you? I know what she is. I just don't lie to myself about it. He sipped his drink like we weren't discussing the woman we both loved, and possibly still hated. I don't think she loves either of us, I said. She doesn't, but she needs someone. And she chooses based on utility, not heart. That doesn't scare you? It used to. Now I find it refreshing. He meant it. He was twisted in a different way than I was. He understood her game because he didn't want to win. He just wanted to keep playing. When I left, I didn't feel better. I felt like I'd stared into the future and found a version of myself I never wanted to become. So I made a decision. No more running, no more drinking, no more playing defense. I was going to end this. On my terms. I didn't sleep after leaving Liam's place. I didn't drink either. That was new. I sat in my office until sunrise, staring at the papers Miranda had sent me, thinking about everything I'd allowed. No, enabled. I let her rewrite our story, made excuses for every red flag because I was afraid of being the one who gave up. But this wasn't surrender. This was strategy. And I finally had one of my own. I contacted a lawyer the next morning. A different one, not the family attorney Miranda and I used for years. This one was sharp, aggressive, and didn't flinch when I told him I wanted to renegotiate every term in the settlement. She offered an even split, he said. That's rare. You sure you want to challenge it? Yes. I want every asset traced. I want records pulled. I want to know what's been moved, hidden, or renamed in trusts over the last 6 months. Are you expecting foul play? I'm expecting Miranda. He didn't need further explanation. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was trying to stop being a pawn. Later that afternoon, Elise finally responded. A single line. You ready to talk like a man who's not still living in her shadow? I drove to her place. She met me at the door, arms crossed, no makeup, no softness, just truth. I'm not coming back into this if you're still trying to fix her by breaking me, she said. I'm not. I need to hear it. I took a breath. I loved Miranda, I did. And for too long I measured my worth by how tightly I could hold on to a woman who was already gone. I used you to feel less abandoned. That's the truth. She didn't look away. She didn't smile either. Thank you, she said. That's the first honest thing you've said that didn't have her name buried inside it. We didn't touch. We didn't kiss. It wasn't romantic. It was real. I'm not asking you for anything, I added. I just wanted to stop lying to someone who deserved better. She nodded once, quietly, and stepped aside. I stayed for a few hours. We talked, really talked, about life, about our parents, about the weird ways pain repeats itself. It didn't fix everything, but it stitched something. Back home, I found an email from my lawyer. Subject: Miranda's Trust Movement Attachment, Asset Redirection Summary, April-June. My heart sank. 2 months before she filed for divorce, Miranda had quietly moved a significant portion of our shared investment portfolio into a trust under Everett and Associates, a firm owned by Liam's brother. Not illegal, but calculated. She'd been preparing to leave me while pretending everything was salvageable. She wasn't just walking away. She was gutting the house on her way out. I had my lawyer freeze the remaining joint accounts immediately. The next day, Miranda called. Not texted, called. I see you've lawyered up, she said. You started this war, Miranda. You don't get to be surprised I'm fighting back. A pause. Is that what this is? A war? You made it one when you smiled in that photo. That was never meant to hurt you. I laughed. You mailed it to my doorstep. Another pause, then. You always said I could burn down everything if I needed to start over. And you're halfway through the matchbook. You think I'm evil, don't you? She asked. Her voice was calm, tired, maybe even sincere. No, I think you're terrified. And somewhere along the way, you forgot how to ask for help without destroying everything first. Another silence. This one longer. I didn't expect you to become this version of yourself, she said quietly. Neither did I. But maybe I should have years ago. She hung up. No goodbye. That night, Harris invited me to a gallery opening downtown. Something casual, low pressure. I went. Not because I cared about the art, because I needed to be seen. I ran into people who used to look at Miranda and me like we were royalty. Some of them looked confused, others sympathetic. Most were too polite to ask anything real. Then I saw her, Miranda, alone this time. No Liam, no Shadow. She looked surprised to see me. "Didn't think this crowd was your scene anymore," she said, sipping her wine. "Maybe it never was. You look different. Maybe I am." She studied me for a long second, like trying to find the version of me she used to control, and failing. "I'm not your enemy, Nolan," she said. "No. But you're not my future either." It was the first time I said it out loud, and the first time she looked like she might believe me. A week passed. No calls from Miranda, no more surprise packages, just silence. But I knew better than to trust it. Silence wasn't surrender. It was strategy. My lawyer called that Friday afternoon. "We've uncovered 2 shell companies registered under a holding firm tied to Everett and Associates. Miranda's name isn't on them directly, but the funds, your funds, were funneled in through the investment account last quarter." "How much?" "Close to 400,000. I clenched my jaw. "She's trying to bankrupt you before the papers are even signed." "She's trying to build something new before the dust settles," I replied. The next day, I drove to my parents' house. First time in months. They were always Miranda's biggest fans, until they weren't. My father opened the door, stern as always, but his voice cracked just slightly when he said, "You look thinner." "I've been eating. Not enough." We sat in the sunroom. My mother joined us, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "You didn't come for small talk," she said. "So what's happening?" "I'm signing the papers next week." She didn't flinch. "Good. You don't want to ask why? You're not the kind of man who does this without a reason. She just made sure it got harder than it needed to." I nodded. For the first time, I felt less like a son, more like a man. Scene. That night, Elise called. "Come over," she said. Not a question. When I arrived, she was sitting on the fire escape, legs crossed, a blanket around her shoulders. "You remember the first night you came here?" she asked. "Yeah, you made me drink terrible tea," she smiled faintly. "And you looked like someone trying not to collapse." "I was." She turned to face me. "You're stronger now, but I don't want to build something on the rubble unless we both sweep it clean first." "I'm not trying to replace her anymore," I said. "I'm just trying to be someone worth standing next to." We didn't kiss. We just sat. For hours. It was better than any apology. The next morning, I walked into the office. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I belonged there again. Harris met me in the boardroom. "Guess who showed up at my house last night?" I raised an eyebrow. "Miranda." My chest tightened. She wasn't screaming or angry. She was calculated. "Asked me if you were serious about fighting the divorce terms." "What did you say?" "That you were, and that she should be worried." Harris handed me a flash drive. "She left this. Said it was proof of everything that matters." I didn't look. Figured you'd want to. Back at my desk, I plugged it in. Folders, dozens of them, photos, audio recordings, screenshots of emails between me and Elise, private conversations, surveillance-level detail. She had been documenting me for months, preparing to burn me down. I scrolled through image after image. Me at Elise's apartment, timestamps aligned with dates she claimed she was working late. There were even records of my private investigator's contact with her building's security. She knew. She always knew. This wasn't divorce. It was execution. I slammed the laptop shut. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. "Nolan," Miranda said smoothly. "We need to talk." "I'm not interested." "Then maybe the court would like to review what's on that flash drive." "You think blackmail will win you anything now?" "I think damage is a form of leverage. And you handed me the materials yourself." I was silent. She continued. "You can still walk away quietly. No court, no press, no stories leaked." "What do you want, Miranda?" "A win, and you want closure. Let me have mine, and I'll let you have yours." It was a threat, wrapped in silk. I hung up. I called my lawyer next, told him everything. He was quiet for a beat, then said, "We don't fight her in the dark. We pull her into the light." So that's what I plan to do. Publicly. I arranged a press statement, not tabloids, but the business section. A professional account of the firm's split, the divorce, the legal disagreements. Nothing personal, just facts. But it stripped her narrative from her. She couldn't claim betrayal anymore. I beat her to it. The next day, my lawyer called again. She countered, filed a formal claim accusing you of professional misconduct. She's coming hard. Of course she was. The mask had finally slipped. Now she wasn't hiding. And neither was I. My lawyer's office was cold, sleek, and smelled like victory, or maybe fear. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. She's filed 3 motions this week, he said, flipping through documents. Asset reassessment, misconduct claims, attempted injunction on firm profits. She's throwing everything she has. She wants to bury me in paperwork, I replied, scanning the motion summaries, not the courtroom. She's smart enough to know the press loves the idea of a broken man with something to hide. I leaned forward. Then we give them something else to look at. I had a plan, and it started with the truth. The next morning, I released a personal statement. Not through lawyers, through me. It wasn't dramatic, no accusations, no scandals, just a detailed timeline of the divorce, the asset movement, and the legal challenges. Clean, sharp, precise. It made headlines, not because it was scandalous, but because it wasn't. People started asking why Miranda hadn't made a statement. Her silence looked calculated. That same night, Elise called me. You've been on every news feed I follow. I'm not hiding anymore. I know, she said quietly. That's why I'm proud of you. I didn't say anything. She continued, I want to help. Elise, I don't mean emotionally, I mean really help. She sent a file, emails, dozens of them, from Miranda to someone named Kenneth Bloom. The subject lines were benign: schedule review, property coordination, investor liaison. But Kenneth Bloom wasn't an investor. He was a real estate broker. And the properties in those emails? All tied to Everett and Associates. All purchased in the past 6 months using money traced back to the trust Miranda had tried to bury. It wasn't just deception, it was fraud. I brought the file to my lawyer immediately. His eyes widened as he read through them. She funneled marital assets into third-party holdings under falsified company records. That's felony territory. Can we use this? In a courtroom? Absolutely. In a settlement? It's game over. But it wasn't about money anymore. It was about stopping her. I wanted this to end, not just for me, but for anyone else she might destroy next. The next day, we filed a motion to freeze all assets tied to Everett and Associates and demand a forensic audit on every trust fund linked to Miranda or Liam. Miranda's lawyer responded with panic. A meeting was scheduled. Private. Neutral location. I arrived alone. She didn't. Liam was with her. He didn't speak. Just sat behind her like a shadow she'd trained to grow teeth. Miranda looked tired. Not weak, but fraying at the edges. I expected better than a witch hunt, she said as I sat. And I expected better than theft. Her eyes narrowed. I didn't steal. You laundered. Her lawyer tried to interrupt, but mine shut him down. We have the emails, my attorney said, from your client's personal account. You used marital funds to purchase undeclared property during separation. You created holding companies through a known associate of your partner. I watched her mask crack. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Just silence. Liam shifted in his seat, suddenly less smug. We're willing to make this go away, my lawyer continued. Full disclosure, clean asset division, no counters, no court, no criminal filings. But if this goes to trial, we accept, Miranda snapped, cutting him off. Just like that, a storm tamed. We signed the papers 2 days later, in silence, no final words, no eye contact. Just ink on pages soaked in years of regret. When it was over, she stood, paused, then said, You know, I really did love you once. I didn't reply, because that wasn't true. She didn't love me. She loved control. And now she didn't have any. That night, I went to Elise's. She opened the door before I knocked. You're free? She asked. No, I said. I'm finally myself. She smiled. We didn't speak much after that. We didn't need to. Some battles don't end with applause. They end with quiet. And that's what I'd been fighting for all along. It didn't feel like freedom, not at first. The morning after the final signatures were filed, I stood in my kitchen, the same one Miranda and I used to argue in, and poured myself a glass of water. No scotch, no distraction, just silence. That was the strangest part. The quiet wasn't oppressive anymore. It was peaceful. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no threats, no cryptic photos from anonymous numbers. The war was over. But I wasn't celebrating. Harris called that afternoon. The press is already shifting the narrative. You're coming out cleaner than we thought. Cleaner doesn't mean untouched. It does when your ex-wife's lawyer quietly withdraws all misconduct claims within 48 hours of a subpoena. I half smiled. You ever think we make better villains than heroes? He laughed. Depends on who's writing the story. After we hung up, I opened a box I'd avoided for weeks. Photos, cards, receipts from trips Miranda and I took together. The brittle kind of memories that crack when you breathe on them too hard. I didn't burn them. I didn't cry over them. I just put them in the closet, because not everything deserves a dramatic ending. That evening I went to Elisa's place. She answered the door wearing paint-stained jeans and holding a mug of tea. A soft look passed over her face. Relief, maybe. Or closure. I heard, she said. You didn't tell me. I didn't want to jinx it. Are we allowed to breathe again? I nodded. She let me in. For the first time, we didn't talk about Miranda. We talked about us, about who we were outside of the wreckage. I was terrified, she admitted. Not of her, of becoming another phase. You weren't. I still don't want to be your rescue. You aren't. You're what's left when the smoke clears. Later, we sat on the couch with her legs pulled over mine, music playing low in the background. She looked at me and asked, "What's next?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. The firm was stable. My name had survived the storm, my reputation battered but intact. But purpose? That was harder to pin down. I spent the next week doing things I'd neglected for years. I visited my sister's family, went for runs, cleared out closets filled with old promises and even older clothes. I even painted the guest room. Elise helped. It was mundane and beautiful. But peace has a funny way of lulling you into forgetting that some ghosts don't stay buried. On Friday morning, I got an envelope. No sender, just a single sheet of paper, a photo printed in black and white. Me and Elise walking into her apartment dated 2 nights prior, and one line typed below it. We're not finished. No name, no signature. But I knew the hand that held that camera. Liam. I took the photo to my lawyer, who sighed and shook his head. No threat, technically, just implication. He wants me to react. Don't give him what Miranda wanted, your fear. I went home and showed the photo to Elise. Her eyes didn't widen, she didn't panic. I knew he wouldn't let it end clean, she said. He's not trying to bring you down, I said. He wants to see if I'll fall without Miranda pulling the strings. Will you? No, but deep down, I knew Liam was more dangerous alone than he'd ever been as Miranda's shadow, because he had nothing left to lose. That night, Elise and I made a pact. No more hiding. No more silence. If Liam wanted a war, he'd have to do it in daylight. I started documenting everything. Every visit. Every suspicious car parked outside. Every unsolicited package. Because this time, if someone tried to twist the truth, I'd already be holding the knife. We thought silence would be safety. But silence is just another mask. And Liam had stopped wearing his. The second envelope came 3 days after the first. This time it was a printed transcript, part of a recorded phone call between me and Elise from weeks ago. Private, vulnerable, the kind of conversation no one should have had access to. I sat at the kitchen counter staring at it, my stomach hollow. He's not just watching, Elise said from behind me. He's listening. He must have bugged the apartment. I checked everything when we moved in. There's nothing in here. Then he's getting it another way. Do you think Miranda gave him access? She settled, but Liam, he doesn't need her permission anymore. He's doing this because he wants to. She was right. This wasn't strategic. It was personal. And the worst part? I understood it. Liam had once loved Miranda, obsessively, controllingly. When she pulled him back into her games, it was never about love. It was about possession. And when she walked away, he was left behind again, abandoned. And in his mind, I was the reason. I was the man who took her, outplayed her, survived her. And now I had something new. He wasn't just watching me. He was studying me. We reported the transcript to the police. They took a statement but gave the usual vague responses. No direct threat. No identifiable source. They filed it. That was all. I upgraded my home security. Elise's too. We started using encrypted apps, rotating passwords. We even stopped walking the same route home every night. I wasn't being paranoid. I was preparing. Liam didn't need to touch us to break us. He just had to make us believe he could. I visited Harris at the office one afternoon, told him everything. You want me to get private security involved? He asked. Because I can. No. I need something more subtle. I need to know what Liam wants, what he's planning. You think this is still about Miranda? No, I said. I think it never was. Harris pulled out a folder. After the settlement, I did some digging into Everett and Associates. Guess what I found? He opened it. Property ledgers, transaction records, photos. Liam's real name isn't Liam Everett. It's William Kessler. Changed it 6 years ago after a sealed court case in Boston. His old firm collapsed under a fraud investigation, and he disappeared. Rebranded, resurfaced. Miranda was his cover. And now he's unraveling. Now he's cornered, Harris corrected. And men like that don't beg, they burn. That night I didn't sleep. I watched the security feeds. Every flicker of movement outside the apartment. Every shadow too still. Every car that paused too long. And I thought about what it meant to be ready. Not just to survive, but to defend. I found Elise in the studio, painting with the kind of focus that shut the world out. He's escalating, I said. I know. If something happens, Nolan. She turned to face me. I'm not scared, not of him, not of what he thinks he can take from us. I'm scared of who I might become if I have to fight him. Then don't fight him his way. Don't let him turn you into something he can understand. I kissed her, soft, long, because I needed to remember who I was fighting for. The next morning, I visited Liam's condo building. Not to break in, to see, to remind him I wasn't hiding. The doorman watched me carefully. I gave my name, asked if Liam was expecting anyone. He wasn't, but he'd just left 20 minutes earlier. The doorman handed me a package Liam had left behind, sealed, unmarked, addressed simply, "Deliver if he shows up." Inside, a USB drive. Back in my car, I stared at it. Temptation, fear, but also a window. I plugged it into a spare tablet, isolated from the rest of my files. One video. It opened with Liam's face, direct, calm, cold. If you're watching this, congratulations, you've made it to the endgame. He leaned forward. You see, Nolan, I don't want your life. I want your uncertainty. I want you to question every door you walk through, every laugh Elise gives you, every moment of peace, because I'll be there, just outside the frame. He smiled. You're not the first man Miranda broke, but you might be the last. Because when this is over, I won't need to touch you. You'll destroy yourself. The screen went black. No threat, just prophecy. And it worked. Because for the first time in weeks, I truly didn't feel safe. But I also knew one thing Liam didn't. I'd already been destroyed and rebuilt. Not as his shadow, as his reckoning. I didn't sleep the night I watched the video. Liam's voice stayed with me long after the screen went black. That grin, that slow, calculated menace. It wasn't a threat. It was an invitation to paranoia, to obsession, to war. But I didn't accept. I deleted the file, burned the USB, changed the locks, again. And then I did something I should have done a long time ago. I went to the press, not with a scandal, with a truth, a formal report, with documents Harris helped compile. Evidence of Liam's fraudulent activity under both aliases, Liam Everett and William Kessler, the fake firms, the investment trails. His connection to Miranda during the trust transfer, it wasn't a personal vendetta, it was a warning. And I made sure it landed in the hands of the right people. Law enforcement, business regulators, and the same journalists who had once painted Miranda and me as the golden couple. This time, the gold had rusted off. That same afternoon, I filed for a restraining order. Not just for me, for Elise too. Her face when I told her, it was the first time I saw fear behind her calm. "I thought we could keep this between us," she said. "We can't afford that anymore." "But if we escalate it, he's already escalated it." The officer took our statement seriously, mostly because of the audio transcript Liam had sent. The video, the lingering history of Miranda's settlement. By evening, the order was in place. Liam couldn't come within 200 feet of either of us, and for once, the law was on our side before the damage was done. But Liam wasn't the kind of man who obeyed paper boundaries. 2 nights later, Elise came home to find her studio window cracked open. No signs of forced entry, no theft, no note. Just a red paintbrush left on the floor. She hadn't used red in over 2 weeks. "I locked every window," she whispered, holding it like a loaded weapon. "He was inside," I said. "He didn't take anything. He just wanted you to know he could." We moved into my place the next day, upgraded the cameras, hired private security, but I knew it wasn't enough. I had to end this, not defend. I reached out to one of the journalists who covered corporate fraud, a woman named Deanna Marks, direct, unflinching, known for exposing financial predators. I handed her everything. And then I sat in her studio, lights glaring, camera rolling. "Nolan Carter," she began. "You were once married to Miranda Cole, daughter of one of the most influential real estate families on the East Coast. Since your public divorce, there's been speculation that your former business partner, Liam Everett, may have played a deeper role in the collapse of your marriage. Would you like to respond?" I didn't flinch. "Liam Everett doesn't exist," I said. "He's William Kessler, a man with a history of fraud, manipulation, and reinvention. And he didn't just help destroy my marriage, he's been trying to dismantle my life, piece by piece." Deanna leaned in. "Why speak now?" "Because the silence gave him space, and I'm done living in fear." The interview aired the next morning. It went viral. Not because it was sensational, because it was true. Liam went dark, no texts, no packages, no shadows in the hallway. But I didn't celebrate. I waited. And 3 days later, my lawyer called. "You're not going to like this," he said. Liam had filed a lawsuit, defamation, false accusations, emotional distress. He was suing me for ruining his new life. I laughed, out loud. "You don't seem worried," my lawyer said, "because he just made a mistake." "What kind?" "He stepped into the light." It was time to bring everything to court, publicly, because the moment he tried to reclaim control through legal means, he gave us access to subpoena records, to expose lies, to bring every piece of his past, every false deal, every stolen dollar, into a room with a judge and witnesses. He thought he was trapping me. But all he did was draw a map back to himself. That night, Elise and I opened a bottle of wine. We didn't toast to victory. We toasted to patience. Because real justice doesn't come fast. It comes sharp. The courthouse was gray and sharp like a knife made of stone. It was built to be intimidating, but I didn't flinch. Not anymore. Elise sat beside me, calm but focused. She wore no jewelry, no makeup, just clarity. That was her armor. Truth. My lawyer Davis flipped through the final packet of exhibits. "We have everything: emails, corporate ledgers, sealed depositions from the Boston fraud case, the fake ID records from the DMV, and 2 statements from whistleblowers in his old firm." "Will it be enough?" I asked. Davis smiled. "Enough to bury him." The gallery was half full: press, lawyers, a few former investors who probably smelled blood, and Liam. He walked in alone. No lawyer, just a sleek suit, smug expression, and that same look, like he knew the ending already. But this wasn't his script anymore. The judge entered. The room quieted. Liam made his opening statement himself, audacious, unhinged. He spoke about character, reputation, integrity, the damage I caused him, the fabricated allegations, the obsession I had with his past. He spoke like a man auditioning for a part he didn't understand. When it was our turn, Davis didn't say much. He let the evidence speak. First, the identity records. William Kessler, aka Liam Everett. Then, the sealed legal history from Boston. Multiple fraud claims, a failed merger, Millions lost, partners destroyed. Then came the real blow, a whistleblower statement. Recorded. Liam's voice. Boasting about reinvention, bragging about manipulation, laughing at how easy it was to slip under the radar and start over. The court was silent when the audio ended. Liam's face turned stone. The judge cleared his throat. "Mr. Kessler, do you wish to respond before we continue?" Liam stood, but for the first time he didn't look smug. He looked afraid. "No," he said, quietly. Just one word. And then he sat down. The judge ruled the defamation claim invalid, with prejudice. The court would not entertain future versions of the case. I had won, but I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. The next day, the news broke. Liam Everett exposed. The fall of a corporate imposter. Deanna Marks ran the lead. Her article was merciless, precise. She even quoted me. This wasn't about revenge. It was about stopping someone who thought reinvention meant immunity. Liam's name became toxic overnight. His accounts were frozen, his shell companies blacklisted. The FBI opened an inquiry into the trust funds tied to Everett and Associates. I wasn't his only victim, but I might have been the last. That night, Elise and I returned home and sat in silence on the balcony. The city pulsed below us, but our world was still. "He's done," I said. "I know," she whispered. And then she asked me the question I hadn't prepared for. "What are you going to do now that you're free?" I looked at her, at everything we'd survived, everything we didn't say, everything we still had. "I'm going to build something real," I said, "from the ground up, not out of fear, not out of guilt, just honestly." She leaned her head on my shoulder. I knew then it was almost over. Not the story, the war, but there was still one thing left to do. The next morning, I visited the cemetery, not for a funeral, for a memory. Miranda's mother had passed years ago. I hadn't visited her grave since the wedding. Miranda used to bring flowers every spring. I brought white tulips, not for her mother, for the version of Miranda I thought I married. I placed them down. No words, just peace. I wasn't grieving her. I was releasing her. The Nolan that followed Miranda's shadow into darkness. He didn't survive the trial. He wasn't supposed to. You don't notice the silence until it stops sounding like a warning. The morning after the verdict, I woke up next to Elise with the window cracked just enough to let in the spring breeze. No sirens, no late-night calls, no thud of panic in my chest. I expected to feel triumphant. I didn't. I felt emptied, not broken, just cleared. The kind of stillness that only comes after a long storm. Elise rolled toward me, eyes half open. "You're thinking again." It's hard not to when the noise stops. She didn't push, just rested her hand against my chest, grounding me like she always had. Later that afternoon, I walked through the neighborhood alone for the first time in months. No security, no second-guessing every parked car. Just the rhythm of my own footsteps, echoing across sunlit sidewalks. I stopped in front of a bookstore. One Miranda and I used to visit. She liked old biographies with dust jackets and long titles. I used to pretend I cared. I went inside, bought a blank journal. That night, I opened it to the first page and wrote, "This is not a story about her. This is a story about me finally remembering who I was before her." And just like that, the healing began. But healing isn't romantic. It's practical, mundane, hard. You stop flinching when your phone rings. You delete voicemails you've been holding onto for no reason. You finally change the password on your old email. You let go of the anchors disguised as memories. Elise was patient, present, but never pushy. One night she asked, "What would you do if we started over, just clean slate?" "I wouldn't look back," I said. And I meant it. But even then, ghosts had their ways. 3 weeks after the trial, I received a letter. No return address, no signature, just a typed message on textured paper. "Nolan, I was never trying to win. I was trying not to lose. But somewhere along the way, I stopped knowing the difference. I'm sorry for everything I turned into. I'm sorry I let Liam near you. And I'm sorry I loved you the only way I knew how, by destroying what scared me. I hope she teaches you how to breathe again. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure. It was something. I showed Elise. She read it, folded it neatly, handed it back without a word. "I'm not reaching out," I said. "Good," she whispered, "because she's not the chapter anymore." One morning in May, Harris called. "There's a vacancy at the firm's Chicago branch. Senior partner, less media attention, big reset. I can get you the offer." "Why me?" "Because you didn't just survive this. You proved who you are under pressure. That's who I want leading the next era." I told him I'd think about it. Then I asked Elise, "Would you move with me? Would you still ask if I said no?" "I wouldn't go." She smiled. "Then yes." That weekend we packed a few things and drove out of the city. Not running, just breathing. On the way, we passed the bar where I first saw Miranda with Liam. The place where this whole spiral began. Elise glanced at me. "Want to stop?" "No," I said. "I don't need to see the ruins to remember what survived." We kept driving. Somewhere along the highway, she reached over and took my hand. And for the first time, the weight I'd carried for years felt like it was someone else's burden. Because it was never about revenge, or justice, or even love. It was about letting go. And now, finally, I had. Chicago was colder than I remembered, but not in a punishing way, just honest. We moved into a modest 2-bedroom condo in Lincoln Park. Nothing flashy, nothing curated for appearances, just walls that held warmth instead of performance. Elise unpacked slow, deliberate. Her brushes were the first thing she arranged. I watched her work like someone watching the sun rise after a long night, not needing to speak, just needing to know it was still there. We didn't hang photos of the past, not because we were running from it, but because it wasn't this chapter's story. I started work at the new firm within the month. Harris had kept his promise, no headlines, no whispers, just blueprints, early meetings, and the quiet joy of building again. I left the office every day by 5. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because Elise waited on the porch some evenings with tea and a dog-eared book. Because dinner didn't feel like an obligation anymore. Because home had stopped feeling like a battlefield. I wrote again too. At first just journal entries, then essays, reflections. Eventually, Deanna Marks, the journalist from before, called. "Your voice matters, Nolan," she said. "You didn't just survive a scandal, you reframed it. Most men disappear, you didn't." She offered me a column, monthly, anything I wanted to write. I said yes. My first article was titled, "What You Survive Isn't Who You Are, It's Who You Refuse to Become." It got shared more than I expected, especially by men who didn't know how to name their own pain. I never used Miranda's name, or Liam's, not out of fear, out of choice, because this story was no longer theirs. One Sunday afternoon, while walking through the park, Elise stopped beside a fountain and asked, "Do you ever think about her anymore?" I didn't lie. Sometimes, not with anger, not even regret, just like remembering a movie I watched too many times. The plot's still there, but it doesn't move me anymore. She nodded. "I think that's what healing actually is," she said. "Not erasing, just softening." Weeks turned to months. The world spun on, not knowing the war I'd lived through, not knowing the weight of quiet victories. And then, one morning, I received an email. No subject, no sender, just a single line. "You never thanked me for making you strong." I didn't reply. I deleted it. Because the truth was, I didn't need Miranda to break me to find my strength. She just revealed what I'd buried under compromise. I chose not to respond because I finally understood. Closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you build yourself, brick by brick, day by day, by waking up and choosing who you are. And I chose to be whole. I chose to forgive the boy in me who thought love had to hurt to be real. I chose to protect the man who finally said enough. And I chose Elise, not because she saved me, but because she didn't try to. She just stood with me while I learned to save myself. There's no climax to this ending, no final twist, just the peace of stillness after surviving the storm. That's all I ever wanted. And now, it's mine.